How long do you think it takes before you know for a fact that a show is going to be great? 3 episodes? 1 episode? Half an episode even? Madoka Magica takes 3 minutes. The shot direction within this tiny frame of time is so beautiful that it'd make Ava blush. This pink-haired schoolgirl is framed in a black and white background resembling a chessboard. When 2 additional characters get added to the mix, a black-haired Maho Shoujo and this strange white creature, it further adds to this feeling that this girl is just an accessory in some larger game she has no idea about. Look at the way she moves. Forward, like the pawn she is. Additionally, the wide sweeping shots produce a feeling of isolation and questioning. It's clear this girl is frantically looking for something. Searching for some way to help the other girl, maybe? The situation is bleak as accentuated by the drained color palette. To take a moment and just admire the view, it's clear that Madoka carries over the one key thing in the last Urobuchi work I looked at, Sayo no Uta. The tone is set immediately. Being a magical girl can be viewed as a lifesaver from the perspective of Madoka, the pink-haired girl saving her friend. But conversely, when looking at that very friend, the black-haired girl Homura, it's also a death sentence. It's not an entirely black or white thing, and within the first 2 minutes, that is conveyed beautifully. Speaking of which, when that white creature I mentioned earlier approaches our MC, red flags should immediately not go off. Seriously, off-put by his appearance, sure, with him showing up suddenly and offering an easy out, it's a reasonable assertion. Additionally, with his design being a mostly pure shade of white, he comes across as almost too pure. Nevertheless, a cute animal sidekick who offers powers to the magical girl is a trope within the genre. Who's to say at this point if we're going to play into convention or not? Juxtaposed with Homura's clearly distressed look, not at the calamity in front of her, but at the thing talking to Madoka, and this adorably unnerving plush toy adds to the overall feel this opening scene has. His design, though cute and comforting at a glance, really comes to life in animation. Or it doesn't. The unblinking red eyes and non-moving mouth. The eyes are particularly important to note, as in most anime, it's typical for them to be the keying endpoint on what that character is feeling. Kyubey, this creature offering Madoka a deal oh so sweet, just doesn't have any emotion if we follow that through line. It's doing this for some other reason that hasn't been made clear yet. But this deal will save both Homura and the rest of the country if this decimated city is anything to go by. So it can't be evil, right? Within the first 2 minutes and 50 seconds, we know the conceit of the show. Madoka, the character in flux between active and passive, is going to become a magica with the aid of Kyubey, and Homura is very against that idea, judging by her facial expression. It's simple shit that will be expanded upon later, but for a show to establish this much in such little time is a rare thing. And thankfully, Madoka Magica hasn't overstepped its boundaries in any way to do so. No sloppily explaining the world to the audience, no glossed over concepts, and no contrived outright telling the viewer what happened. This is all just extremely competent art, design, direction, and writing. This level of excellence continues into the rest of the first episode. Also, if I haven't already sold the 3 of you here who haven't watched Madoka, I'd recommend you go and do that, because from this point on, I'm going to be spoiling the ever-loving shit out of it. Or, stay anyways. I like the analytics. Following the opening scene, it's shown that this was all just a dream our MC Madoka had. Bringing in the context of later in the show, however, it's not really a dream, more so a vision of one of the past timelines. I'll expand more on this later, but for now, I'll just leave it at this. Madoka dreaming of past timelines does something important that the last few episodes are going to capitalize on once Homura's time magic is revealed, hinting already that Madoka has ties to all these different threads of fate that have been connected to her. When that reveal comes later, it makes this initial scene finally click. Speaking of openings though, Madoka has one of those, the anime music video kind I mean. At the risk of stepping on the toes of a much more popular YouTuber, what is in this OP? The first shot is Madoka standing alone in this void of sorts, clutching onto her dress. A moment later, though it's raining, a tear is shown streaming down her face. The imagery around her is bright and cheery, but again, being a Mahou shoujo isn't exactly all sunflowers and cherries, accentuated by how on the verge of sobs Madoka looks here. I'm not gonna go through the rest of this OP in super extensive detail, but the little bits and bobbles that it throws in are really well appreciated on subsequent viewings. It shows off a bunch of different timelines, including the original, in which Madoka apparently traded her soul to save a cat. That detail is apparently in the first drama CD released for the series, but I can't understand Japanese, so I'm just gonna take the internet's word for it. Though the shots of Madoka clutching the cat and crying in this OP leads me to believe that that's actually the case. Geez, she's so pure. I like how it also portrays the main way we see Madoka for a good portion of the story, contemplating if becoming a magical girl is something even worth doing. When she lays on Kyubey, perhaps deciding on a wish, the next cut shows her in mid-transformation sequence, some kind of runes floating around her. I'm sure the way they flow around her doesn't correspond directly to the Roman alphabet for keen-eyed fans to then transcribe into real letters that turn out to be mostly Germanic phrases and allusions to Faust. Nah, that'd be crazy. Anyway, I like this little transformation Madoka has. She's giving herself the boost she needs to go out and make her dream a reality. That's something I can get behind. At least, that's my interpretation as an overly working on these YouTube videos for some sense of self-expression and passion kind of lad. I'd love to hear yours in the comments, though. Sound off if you too would like to be a magical girl. Wait, didn't I say I wasn't going to analyze every little detail of this OP? Well, fuck it, there's only like 20 seconds of it left anyways, why stop now? The shots of all the important characters, all of which give off their defining personality traits, met at the end with Madoka's unwavering determination, is a cut I hold fondly. After all, what does Madoka make her wish for at the end? To save each and every one of them. It doesn't matter if she gets trapped in an endless maze of emotions and curses, she'll find the way out, with all of them in tow. The song Connect by Watanabe Sho, sung by Clary S., just expands on that, with lyrics that tie into Madoka's resolve in the face of everything that happens in these 12 episodes. Just an extremely solid OP, the stuff with Homura looking longingly through a fence at an increasingly distant Madoka at the end, and the closing shot of the OG trio are just the icing on the cake. Moving on from that though, I'm gonna pick up the pace a bit. At the rate I'm going, I think it would literally just be faster to watch the show again yourself, which, as someone who's watched it 3 times in the past 2 weeks, honestly isn't the worst thing to do. But still, a faster speed while still showing why Madoka became the classic it is a very possible thing to do. Madoka, the character, is ordinary. That's it. Her life, her kindness, her meekness, even her drive to be something more than normal. Madoka's family, while not having much time on screen, falls in line with this. Within this beginning act, we get the gist of things. Her father is a Chad male housewife whom I strive to be in my future. Her brother is a toddler who's somehow even more bright-eyed than her, and Madoka's mother is a hard-working breadwinner who needs all the rest she can get. Madoka and her mother clearly have a close relationship. Their conversation in the opening episode starts out light, but as the series progresses, she's the one person Madoka can always look to for advice. She'll come to her father as well, but it's clear she has a bias towards mommy. Or at least Urobuchi does or something. Depriving my man of screen time. How dare he? The little fashion tips her mother gives her at the start is the breadcrumb trail that will lead to conversations like the one post-Sayaka being a magical girl, where her mother pushes her in a direction but still gives her room to do what she needs to. Also, I don't know about you guys, but if I ever woke up my parents like this, they'd probably crucify me before getting another divorce. Madoka and her mother, on the other hand, seem quite used to this. Solid family unit, 10 out of 10. And yes, past me, funny tomato do indeed go burr. This show is wonderful at introducing characters. Look at how Madoka, Sayaka, and What's-Her-Name are lined up in this shot. What's-Her-Name is way at the front, Madoka is clearly in the middle, and Sayaka is closing the distance between herself and Madoka. Those two are buddy-buddy while what's-her-name gets flustered about the idea of those two being in a relationship with how they're acting. Something meant to come off as a joke, and to an extent it is, though it is relevant to note that what's-her-name connects everything to relationships. Wonder what's going on in her mind. Meanwhile, Madoka and Sayaka are comfortable enough to go off and do their own thing without her. Cutting through this hot and sticky tension is Fujimura-sensei loudly proclaiming her relationship woes. As an aside, these teachers will always be Fujine from Fate Stay Night to me. I knew her first. Though that's not to knock on this trope, I find it fucking hilarious. And how it's used in Madoka never fails to make me smile, regardless of what's going on in the plot. It's a minor thing, but really, how it's used in this first episode is how it will continue to be used, as a way to cut the tension and give the audience a little breather before coming back with a heavy topic. Case in point, immediately following this, that dream girl from the first 2 minutes makes her debut in class. Keeping in with the trend of immaculate introductions, Homura. In one big cope, she recreates her initial meeting with Madoka by forcing her to take her to the nurse's office. Given what's revealed at the end, I wonder how many times Homura relived this experience, how each little change from the relationship they once had pricks her like a needle. The pained look she gives when Madoka calls her Akemi-san elucidates how brutal her position is. Even without the context, you can tell that though she invited Madoka out, this conversation hurts her. Which raises the question of why, as well as the already present connection of why Madoka dreamed of her. With the context added back in, her life has been for Madoka for a countless amount of loops, so the thought that they are anything but close kills Homura. It's irrational for her to act this way, and she knows it. For a good portion of the show, though she burst out in small ways at Madoka and the others, she's mainly biting her tongue until the last 2 episodes. Those outbursts still come out though. The flashback episode giving credence to why most of them seep out when they do is a solid little bit of writing. In this first episode, it's when Madoka goes over the same talking points she did in her and Homura's actual first meeting. The stuff about Homura's name being super cool and all. She changes, but Madoka stays Madoka. Homura is quick and to the point with her proclamations of Madoka not giving up the life she has for absolutely anything. No mistake then that Kyubei is in the next shot, someone who will try again and again to make Madoka someone she's not. Cutting between Homura hunting down Kyubei and Sayaka joking about Madoka and Homura's threads of fate being intertwined is so on the nose and flies under the viewer's head on the first go-through, at least in my case, so damn well. The actual answer to everything is given in this one episode if you pay attention to a rewatch. Stuff like this makes the show feel conducive to consume again and again. The world having a loose sense of technology being in modern times, but just a little beyond that, compounds into this. It's not set in any period of time, it's just timeless. Not to say shows or media set in a particular time period are ever dated. There's just an advantage to things not being clearly defined so new generations can also connect with it immediately. For example, Madoka is shown typing on a holographic keyboard, something that I imagine actually feels like ass to type on, while Sayaka wants to go to the CD store, which despite what you may think, are indeed still a thing. Apparently she's getting a gift for some kind of music-playing boy. A music lad, if you will. I don't remember the names of any of the side characters and I'm too lazy to look them up, okay? Everything has a purpose. Sayaka buying a gift cues for a later scene where she gives that gift, and the intercut shots of Kyubei running away from Homura while Madoka is just vibing clues us in that though these scenes have different color tones, they are indeed taking place at the same time. Normal life just happens to be fat and warm, while the magical life is cold and dark. Homura makes a good first impression as someone who clearly values Madoka's life, but at the same time she's being framed in an ominous light when come face to face with Madoka holding Kyubei. The viewer nor Madoka are sure if she can be trusted. It's thus that when confronted with saving Kyubei from Homura's assault, that while the initial instinct is to save the furball, it's not without some reservations. Kyubei is still saved of course, but the lingering question at the end of this episode is why? The easy out would be to just blast Madoka if Kyubey is her goal, but she doesn't. So, why? Sayaka pops up with expert timing, showing her resourcefulness in a pinch, and they start running for the exit. It's here where the only element not shown within the first 3 minutes finally appears. A witch's labyrinth. I know I'm about 10 years late in stating the obvious here, but my god, what a selling point these were. The use of stop motion overlaying the 2D animation, how it fucks with the character designs and outlines, and most notably, the transitions into them just happening all blend into this unnatural feeling in the best possible way. Credit where it's due, this is largely because of the influence of Urobuchi telling the animation studio Shaft to do whatever the fuck they wanted. Real recognizes real. And I wake up and thank him for that choice every day. It makes things seem dire in a completely different brushstroke than the earlier scenes of Kyubey running away. It's no longer the death of a single creature. What Madoka and Sayaka are in now feels like it erases the meaning of existence entirely. There is no logic. Things will happen as they will, and existence comes crashing into the middle point between purgatory and hell. A place that's formless at first, but given the visage of a nightmare through the eyes of the witch concocting the labyrinth. As we'll see with Sayaka later on, I'm pretty sure that was the intent. These things are the regrets and negative feelings of the witch given life. They've created their own prison, essentially. The music, composed by Yuki Kajira, takes full advantage of the show's new surroundings as well, chanting melodies that sound like a hex being cast, the way it slips into feelings of mounting anxiety. It still contains melody, though it sounds more like a tune you'd hear in a dream as opposed to anything real. Just everything about these scenes is really well done. I don't have enough dumb, flowery words to express that. It makes the introduction of the senpai character Mami feel like a breath of fresh air. She is the stereotypical magical girl, on a first viewing at least. Her cutesy design and effortless defeat of the witch showing that this is a fun thing to do. It's a nice contrast to the depressive atmosphere of the opening, and when both are put next to one another, it shows that though despair is at full fighting power, so is the hope. This isn't a one-sided battle with smoke and mirrors making it seem like there's actually a threat. No, things here could go any way at any time. It's up to our characters to choose which outcome will be the reality. The episode, and by extension the next one, closes out with a happy ending song and image. All of the pieces have been laid out, but make no mistake, being a magical girl is definitely being framed in a positive light for these first 2 episodes. From the perspectives of the now inspired Madoka and Sayaka at the very least. Oh shit, what do you know? Who's that on the credits screen? Absolutely wild. Continued in part 2. Hey, I'm a guy making stuff. If you like this stuff, then support it on Patreon. My gratitude will be yours forever. Also, there's rewards or something you might like. See you all soon.